This is the One Girl Revolution podcast, a podcast that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls across the country. We hope that these stories inspire you, but even more so, we hope that these stories help you to see your own value, your purpose, and your power to change the world through your life. Every woman and girl is a One Girl Revolution. Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl Kate here. I have to be honest, I'm kind of fangirling over here a little bit today because I get to introduce you to someone who has been one of my heroes since I was a kid. Tatyana Ali is our guest today, and I've admired her ever since I first saw her as Ashley Banks on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like so many of you, I grew up watching her on that show, laughing at her jokes, loving her one-liners, and honestly just being in awe of her talent, confidence, and joy. I've followed her career through the years, watched movies or TV shows that she was in, listened to her music, and just loved following her on social media. Tatyana has always had this beautiful light about her. It shines through everything she does, and that light, that grace, that strength has only grown brighter through the years. Today, I am so excited and honored that I get to introduce you to her not only as an actress and singer, but as an advocate, a mother, and a powerhouse social entrepreneur. Tatyana is the founder of Baby Yams, a social enterprise that's working to combat the maternal and infant mortality crisis in Black communities across America. Baby Yams is a vibrant, joy-filled social enterprise that supports mothers and families of color through community, culture, storytelling, and support. It's beautiful, it's bold, and it's urgently needed. And it's so her, it's so Tatyana. This interview is really special, and it's different from many of the interviews you may have heard with Tatyana or may hear, because we don't talk about Hollywood or her iconic roles, though we definitely sprinkle in some of that. What we really dive into is her why, her heart, her passion, her motherhood, her family, and her passion for building something that will outlast all of us, changing our culture and our world to support mothers and babies. Tatyana has taken everything she's learned from the entertainment industry, from Harvard, from her own motherhood journey, and turned it into fuel for real change. Through Baby Yams, Tatyana has created a social enterprise that's not only reshaping the conversation around maternal health, but saving lives. Tatyana is the real deal. She's brilliant, she's brave, she's beautiful inside and out, and she's using her voice and her platform to shine a light on stories that matter and fighting for real change for mothers and babies alike. So with all my admiration and joy, and maybe a little 90s kid nostalgia in the mix, I am so excited to welcome the one and only Tatyana Ali. Here's my conversation with Tatyana. Tatyana, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh, girl, I'm so excited to have you on. There's so much that I want to talk about. And I know that people that are listening, they know you as an actress, a singer. I know you're also a mother. But why I wanted to have you on this podcast is you are such a powerful voice for women and for change in our world. And you are doing such incredible work. So before we get into Baby Yams and all the great work that you're doing there, I would love for you to share just a little bit about who you are. I know that people that are listening, they probably best know you from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but you're also an actress and a singer. You've been in so many different things through the years, but who is Tatyana Ali? How would you describe yourself to our listeners?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, okay, so who am I? Okay, well, I guess I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm the oldest of three girls, a daughter, a cuz. Um, I I'm an artist. I have been lucky enough to work with incredible artists over my whole life since I was 4 years old in theater and Broadway and television and film. And telling stories, I just really believe that stories have the power to, I've seen it happen, has the power to move people to, you can kind of walk a mile in someone's shoes when you read or watch a play or see a film that means something to you, that moves you. It has the power to heal with laughter. Um, and it's just a very human thing to tell stories. And that's been, I think if there's one like through line in my, I guess, work life, or my life making things, I think that's probably it. I believe in it, and I think it's a joy to try to make stories and tell stories and share it with people.
Yeah, stories do have such a power in our world, and that's why it's so important. That's why this podcast exists, honestly, is so
Mhm.
women and girls can share their stories. And it's so powerful when we share our stories or recreate. I had somebody who was on the podcast the other day who talked about, she works with survivors of human trafficking, and she talked about how
Mhm.
all women are creators, right? Even like the fact that we're able to create life within us. And she's working with survivors and victims of terrible things. But she talked about how she was always trying to get women that she worked with back to that creator stage, because we're all
Yeah.
made to be creators. And yeah, it's just so powerful, the
Mhm.
storytelling aspect of life.
Yes, yes, that's really meaningful. Getting back to, because when you think about when you think about traumas, and it's getting back to where you can be creative again is your healing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you have this incredible career and you've been a part of so many different things, but what was it that kind of shaped your path towards the work that you're doing, the activism, the maternal health advocacy? Was there kind of a turning point, or was there a moment even in your life or career that kind of led to that?
Yeah, the moment was the um, birth of my children and the experiences that I had during actual birth. My pregnancy experience with my first son was almost boring and uneventful, in the sense of, thank God I had a really healthy pregnancy. Not a lot of interventions were necessary, and but that changed when I got to the hospital, and many things ensued, including like ignoring our birth plan and different kinds of coercion, and physically, some physical things ensued as well, and because of that, my son ended up in the NICU for 4 days. I had an emergency C-section. It was just a very harrowing and painful uh, birthing experience. My work in advocacy did not start until I found out that we were expecting our second child. And, because after the birth of our first son, and once he was home and healthy, and, we were taking care of a brand new baby, and kind of completely shell shocked, almost like a type of PTSD that we both experienced from what had occurred. I didn't really know where to place it. I didn't have language for it. I didn't know what happened. I did know that every time I shared parts of my story with, let's say, um, a nursing consultant, and by the way, I knew to do that because our pediatrician was my pediatrician as a child, and he happened to have a nursing consultant in the office. And when I shared what happened with her, the fact that she even asked, I mean, the blood, it just, I could see on her face that what I was saying was not normal, and there was something wrong with it. But I really couldn't confront it until I absolutely had to, because I couldn't put my youngest baby in that position again, or myself in that position again. And so my advocacy work began with like educating myself and going everywhere I could to learn what happened, how can I prevent it. I was very pregnant in those first, traveling to a conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico, traveling to, there was one organization, one thing that I had shared with my first son was my nursing journey. And I shared that because I was really searching. I was looking for community. I think I posted a picture of he and I wrote, it was like very long, on Instagram. And an organization called Black Mamas Matter Alliance reached out to me to speak at their second convening about nursing. And what they didn't know, I was maybe 2 months pregnant at the time, not, too early to share, but terrified because of what I experienced before. And at this conference, I was sitting in a room of midwives and doulas and reproductive justice activists and advocates, and all I could do, I was just so thankful to God. Anyway, to make a long story short, I went on that journey. I found a midwife to work with during my second pregnancy and birth. Um, um, he ended up going transverse. We had planned a home birth, but with home births, you also plan for every eventuality. I mean, it's just a completely different modality. Your appointments are however long they need to be. It's not these quick 15-minute things. You're really heard. There's somebody in conversation with you constantly. And the difference in the experience was so great. I just wanted to share it. I wanted to share it because and the way I did it, I wrote an op-ed for Essence, and that really is what started this. And just it's taken on different forms. I share my story wherever I can. That was what I did for maybe the last 5 years. Everywhere I go, somebody has a story to share with me. Even the person who's up on the stage with me doing the, conversation, everybody has stories, and it goes throughout generations. Um, and now I'm telling the story through the blankets and through Baby Yams, because it's a different kind of story for me. It's a story of beauty and possibility and everything that we deserve. And so that's where my advocacy is now. Um, but there's an emergency. There's an emergency in maternal health in its totality, reproductive health in its totality, and especially for Black families, for Indigenous families. We're losing a lot of people, and it's unnecessary.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about maternal health on this podcast and had different organizations like Sister Friends and
Mhm.
organizations and women who are really trying to combat that in our world because it's crazy that in America, we have the highest maternal mortality rate in any developed country, which is crazy and people
Yes.
don't know about it. And so it's so important for women to be sharing their experiences like you are. And I know that other women are. But really, it is a crisis that we need to be talking about. And so, can you share just a little bit about that, like what you've seen and learned about this crisis before we get into Baby Yams?
Yeah, I mean, there's a statistic that people often share, and it's still the same. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. The rates of emergency C-sections are through the roof here in the States. We also have places around the country, throughout the country, that are called maternal care deserts, meaning there is nowhere for anyone to go. Or if you want to get care, you have to travel 30 something miles, 40 miles to see somebody when you're pregnant, to see somebody when it's time to give birth. It's just appalling. And there's a lot of talk about reproductive health and ways to control it. And yet there are real problems with solutions. None of this is a mystery. The care that's necessary is not a mystery. There are proven ways to take care of people and to ensure much better outcomes for mother and child. And yet there's no, getting, I guess, what we would usually call power, or those power structures to do what's necessary to change, is it's very frustrating to see that that's not happening in the necessary, meaningful ways. What is really exciting is that there are new structures being built by people in the reproductive justice community. There are ways to access care, and there's a beautiful proliferation of advocacy groups around the country, reproductive justice groups around the country, doing community events, educating, helping to bring midwives and doulas to the community. That is the for for me, legislation is extremely important. All of that has to happen as well. And there are incredible people all doing that work simultaneously. But for me, as I lived where I lived, the hospital where I gave birth to my first baby was one of the best hospitals in the world for other things. Um, to find the care that I needed when I was pregnant at that time with my second son, I had to I had to go to these other structures. I had to find a midwife. And to do that, you have to know. So that's the part of it that I've taken on as just as a just to amplify the message of all that work that's happening so that we know and we know to seek it. It is there. You can find it.
Yeah, well, I have so much respect for people like you, Tatiana, who have a platform, who are known in the world and who are using their platform for good. And I think it's so important for women to share their stories and share their experiences. And the more that we do that, the more that we sound the alarm, like you're saying, the more that people are going to start to pay attention, right? Because the system is broken, the systems are broken. And I know people like this. I even have a young family member who lives in a big city and could not find an OBGYN that would take her on when she got pregnant with her first baby. She could go for anything else, but she ended up having to drive miles and miles away. And I had this like heart-wrenching conversation with her where she was like, okay, what about other women? I have a car and I have flexibility with my job that I can drive, but there are so many women who are even living in cities
Yeah.
are not able to get the support and care that they need. And so it really is up to all of us to sound the alarm and fight for change. But also, I love the stories of women who are becoming the change, who are the change. Every day, women and girls are changing the world, lifting up their communities, and making a difference. At One Girl Revolution, we are dedicated to highlighting the stories of world-changing women and girls to inspire the world. But we can't do it alone. This year, we're celebrating 6 years of telling these world-changing stories, and we need your help to keep it going. Become a monthly donor by giving just $6 a month in honor of our anniversary. Every single dollar fuels our mission, keeping the podcast going, expanding our reach, and making sure these voices and these stories are heard far and wide. If you believe in the power of women's voices and their stories, if you want to be a part of the revolution, donate today. Go to onegirlrevolution.com/donate and be a part of the revolution.
When you talk about me having a platform or all of the work that I've done as an actor, but none of that matters when when you are ready to hold your little baby in your arm and bring them home, your family, the people we love, our community. All of that is secondary to this. If I mean, because then you don't have anything. Those things they're awesome, they're cool, but they're not real. They're not the thing that you think about and when you lay your head at night and am I safe? Are my kids safe? You know, um, am I going to be safe when I go to the hospital? Is somebody going to listen to me? There's a whole nother side of this that has to do with, it's not a whole side, but you talked about this with your friend, the insurance coverage, and Kate, and this was, my oldest is 8 years old now. So this is a while ago. My youngest is 5. When, with everything that happened in the hospital, I have union coverage, right? Through SAG-AFTRA, through my acting union. It's good coverage, thank God. I saw the insurance company give the hospital $250,000 for what happened, like that-ish, okay? when it was time to pay for my midwife, which was an eighth of that cost. I could only, at that time, I could only do it through reimbursements, which means you have to have that money up front, which not, is hard. And I had to fight. I had to fight a year and a half to get the reimbursement. Oh no, almost 2 years to get that reimbursement for something that is lower cost, that kept us safe and healthy. Something's off. Something is very wrong, you know?
Yeah, there is something wrong. And, not to get go down a rabbit hole, but we hear all the
Right.
time about choice. And there are instances where women are not, they don't have the choice. They should be able to choose. Do you want a midwife? Do you want a doula? And my mom actually was a doula. And so it's like, I have such
Oh,
a heart for
wow.
that as well. And she was a volunteer doula because there's so many women, as you know, that just can't afford it. My mom was like,
Of
well, it was
course.
she used to always say, like, you don't have to die to have many lives. And so that was her like retiree career where she was a doula, and she was like, I have the ability to be there for mamas and their babies, and she
Oh
loved
my
it. But it's so
goodness.
important for women and to have those choices truly,
To have support.
and have
Yeah.
support and community. So, all right, Tatyana, how did Baby Yams come to be? So you're going through this whole experience, your own
Mhm.
personal experience, then you start going to conferences and your eyes are open, like it's like the floodgates open. I can imagine it. And you're learning and you're like, something needs to change. When did you decide to do something about it? When did you get the idea for Baby Yams? Was there like a spark moment? How did that come to be?
It came to be, so when I was at those conferences, it wasn't that something needs to change. I mean, yes, something needs to change, but I want to help because they've been doing this work for a long, I mean, this is decades worth of work that's been going on. I just wanted to lend my hands to what was happening. So I was at a conference called the Momference that takes place in DC. And the moms, they asked me to speak and I did. And when I got to my hotel room that night, I think I was like 7 months pregnant at the time. They had put all of these beautiful body butters, like all of the mom-owned businesses that were vending there, and they wrapped it in this Ankara fabric, which is a fabric, it's a West African fabric, kind of iconic from Ghana, from West Africa. And, I was working with my midwife. I like to sew. And I decided to make a quilt for my youngest. And while I was expecting him and working with my midwife, I just had all of this joy and like feeling of like everything's going to be okay. Like what happened isn't going to happen again. It's going to be fine. And I made him a quilt. And because it was a smaller piece, I had to put other cottons with it to kind of spread it around, to spread the quilt around. Um, I made that like 5 years ago. But over the years, we swaddled him in it. It became his stroller blanket. It sits on his bed now. He sits on it to do stuff. And everywhere I've taken it, I've gotten so many compliments and it became a conversation starter. And so that's where the idea for Baby Yams kind of started. I went on a trip to Ghana with my husband. And while I was there, I met this amazing woman, Auntie Esther, who has this, fabric shop there. And I brought back a bunch of Ankara. And then I started getting to work and building the patterns. We started Black Maternal Health Week, not this April, so it was 2025, April 2024. That was our first drop. We had 50 blankets and we sold them in 3 days. And at that point, that first round of blankets, all of the money went to Birth Future Foundation, which gives grants for midwives and doulas, Black and Indigenous midwives and doulas. And now that we're kind of running it as a longer form business, like, not just as drops, but as continuous items for sale. Now, 10% of every purchase goes towards grants, probably will go also towards scholarships for midwifery students. So that's what it is. And it's a way for, it's hard to advocacy. Part of it was telling my story, but that becomes it's difficult. I don't know when I'm going to get to a point where I'm just like not a little shaky when I go back to that place and tell that story. Um, and also, I don't, you also, it's informative. It can be informative, but I wanted a way to share what's possible. Share the abundance that's possible. That's one of our patterns. The joy that's possible, the sense of peace that's possible, the community, the friendship that's possible when you're in this time of life. And the blankets are I'm having a lot. It's so much fun. I love reading the stories of people. I get pictures of grandbabies and babies in their with their baby yams like sitting on them, and it's incredible.
It's so beautiful. And I will obviously put the website so people can easily go and look
Yeah,
through
thank
the
you.
work that you're doing and see the beautiful quilts. But it's just incredible the work that you're doing. How did you get the name Baby Yams?
I was actually at the airport and I missed a flight. It's like, what am I going to do at this time? How did I do this? It must be for a reason. And I like to journal and write. And I was doing that and kind of was thinking about doing, actually making some of these blankets for sale. Was thinking about all this, kind of putting it together. And so my kids loved yams. Like that was their mushy food and it's a superfood, okay? But if you've ever held like a yam, like a smaller yam, they actually look like little baby legs. Like the subcutaneous fat, like the little legs that you're like, "Arr, arr, arr." They're so cute and juicy. So that's part of it. And also I was thinking about like a food, it's a food of the diaspora. Like no matter where you go. When I went to Ghana, different places I've been in Africa, if you go to the South, if you go to the Caribbean, if you yams. And so I just thought Baby Yams was really cute, but that's the meaning behind it.
It's so cute. And I was even looking through like the different quilts and thinking about like cute little baby yam, like all wrapped up in this cozy little blanket. And they look so like the blankets look so cozy too, but that's so cute.
Thank you.
So you shared about some stories, right? This podcast is all about stories. So I'm always curious to hear different stories, but is there a story maybe of someone who got a Baby Yams quilt that you could share? And or is there a story that you could share? And I know it might be a little complicated, but is there a story that you could share of somebody who's been helped through the work, or even kind of a general story of like, hey, we raised this amount of money and this helped so and so get a doula?
We make regular donations, but by the end of the summer, I think we'll have donated about $25,000 to grants. And we're working with organizations that also have their own fundraising mechanisms. So it becomes our what we're able to donate goes into their system. But these are small grants, $500 to $1,500. I have met, I'm not a part of gets who gets the grant. That's with the foundations, with the organizations, that's their purview. But in my travels, I have met recipients of these grants, and they are, you know, predominantly young women this is their vocation, this is their calling, and they need money to finish school. They need money for their birth kits to begin their practice. They do an extensive amount of traveling to build up their hours, working almost like in apprenticeships with midwives who've been doing this for a long time. They have a lot of travel expenses. There's a lot that goes into becoming a midwife, becoming a doula. And so this is when I said earlier, my advocacy was always like, the point of it was always like, there are other structures, like there's this whole network being built of care providers. Well, Baby Yams, part of my dream for it is to help fuel that, you know, to help so that there are more midwives, there are more doulas, so that when you do reach out in your community, you can find people, they're there. And and I've heard stories of, people who stop their education because they can't afford it. They don't have it at that time, or they have to slow down, make more money, then come in and do it again. I mean, those are some stories. There are birth centers in different parts in the country that have a Baby Yams quilt like up on their wall. There are, I got a beautiful note from one of the very, very first people that bought a Baby Yams, and then she ended up buying stockings for her grandson too. And she sent me a picture of her grandson on top of the blanket, like just kind of sitting, beautiful baby boy. And she wrote to me, she said, I know Baby Yams will always have his back. And that is meaningful to me because my husband went through this also. I have two little boys. My husband was there in the room when all this stuff was going on to me and to us. It is so traumatic. I don't want my sons to ever have to experience that with their partners. I don't want, you know what I mean? Even the fact that it was a little boy sitting on the blanket, it meant so much to me because I see my own. I see my own in him. Um, so those are like two specific stories, but I
Yeah.
get emails. The most meaningful thing is we started a blog called Yam House Diaries, and I put out my thoughts about things that are going on in the world, kind of like the ethos of the brand and what we're doing and milestones that we've hit. Also stories. I bring in guest writers, and I just the letters that I get back, the emails that I get back, and what it brings up for people and what people are able to share just from that community on Baby Yams is incredible.
I will be sure to put that in the show notes as well so people can look it up because it is so incredible to follow the journey, to follow the stories. And I love too just thinking about something as simple as a blanket and how it's really just wrapping these babies up in community and a support system that they're they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and I think that's so beautiful. Looking for stories of women who are changing the world? The One Girl Revolution podcast is your go-to for inspiration and empowerment. Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and never miss an episode. Let's celebrate the power of women together.
There's a feeling that I had with the blankets. Like, for example, I make sure my sons, they have lotion on and their hair is combed and their clothes, everything fits, because I want them to go out into the world and I want people to see them and go, oh, that baby's loved. That baby's loved. And there's something going on with our babies and our moms that they're not getting loving hands on them. I don't know what that is, but if there could be an object that's just like, oh no, this baby comes from somewhere. This baby has a future. This baby is loved, has things to do in this world. Like
There's so much possibility,
this
with each
mother
of
and
these
child,
babies.
they are precious and should be treated so.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, Tatyana, where does Baby Yams go from here, or where do you hope that Baby Yams goes from here? And what impact do you hope that your work can have on the world?
Um, where does Baby Yams go from here? Well, I'm working on making it a real business, a sustainable business. Working on different, adding products to what we already make. There are new colorways coming out. But I want it to be sustainable. I want it to be continuous because there's definitely the money that we're able to donate, that 10%, which the more business we do, the more we can donate. But there's also a story that it tells that I think is wonderful to have in the marketplace. When you walk by and you see, hey, wait, what is this? Why? What's going on? I think that's very powerful. So making it a sustainable business is where I'm at right now. And I have a very small crew. We're mighty, but we're small. Um, uh, that's where it's at. And what's the other question you asked me? You could edit this part.
What impact? Yeah, yeah. What impact do you hope that Baby Yams can have on the world?
My hope is that Baby Yams helps to make this thing non-negotiable. It just is. It's just a new way of treating people, of caring for people. It's a message that a cultural message that cannot be said enough until it becomes a reality in our culture. That's the impact that I hope it has. Now in a real way, oh my gosh, I'd love to see Baby M scholars just all over the country so that wherever you are, there's somebody to take care of you properly.
Girl, I believe it. I believe we're going to see it. And I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're doing. And I know all of our listeners are going to be so excited to follow what you're doing and buy the quilts and all the things. But what's next for you? I know you are consumed with so much of Baby Yams, but what else do you have going on? Or do you have any other projects that you're working on that you can share?
There are none that I can't really talk
Yeah.
about them, but there are um, two acting projects that I'm really excited about that are already, filmed and done. And now I just have to wait for them to come out into the world. But girl, I'm gonna enjoy this summer with my kids. Be in my computer, figuring out my e-commerce business and figuring this life out. And and yeah, and playing outside.
I love it. Well, you deserve it, girl, because you are doing so much. And yeah, I know I can't wait to continue to see what these other projects are. And I'm just so grateful for all that you do with Baby Yams and all the great work you do through your life. You're such a beacon of light and hope for so many people. Tatyana, what can people do to support your work with Baby Yams?
Oh my goodness. So if you go to our website, we have an email subscriber list. Put your email in there. We don't like inundate people with too much stuff. We're really careful about our cadence. But become a part of we call it the Baby Yams fam. Become a part of the community. You can buy a blanket. We have gift cards as well. They're beautiful gifts. People really love them. And yeah, and also part of the culture shift is also like sharing our stories with one another. When I started to open up, I got stories from my mom and my aunts and my grandma that I was like, why didn't y'all tell me all this? But this cultural space of especially for women to be able to share their journey, their reproductive journey, there's not this culture has kind of kept that away somewhere, and that time has passed. There's wisdom to be learned in all of the many types of stories that we have. um so that's another way, like share your story. It's amazing. It was amazing to me that all of the things that I shared, there was always a touch point with someone. I was never alone in the sharing. As traumatic as I thought what I had experienced was and hard for someone else to hear, I never got that back from anybody. All I got was more open hearts.
Yes, it's so important for us, especially as women, to share our stories. And I do love that we're seeing a shift in culture where women are starting to share even their miscarriage stories or
Yes,
infertility journeys or fertility journeys, all the different things.
yes,
And I hope that we continue to see more because like you shared, it's like we are stronger when we stand together. And it's like we
right.
can feel so isolated by what we experience as women, but when we speak our story into the world, it opens up connecting points with other women and it gives other women the courage to say, I went through that too, and me too. And what can we do to be the change? And I know that's a big part of the work that you're doing is empowering women and girls to share their stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tatyana, I know that a part of your story and a part of your passion obviously is your own experience, right? Your own birth stories. But if you could get to the very root of why you care so deeply about maternal health and what you're doing with Baby Yams and what you're doing through your advocacy, what would you say that root is?
I realized in a way that I never had before how this mission, this cause, this thing that needs to be changed, how integral it is to everything in our lives. If women and children aren't cared for and protected in a society, then I don't know, then everything else kind of tethers from that. Now, when I say protect, I think protection means autonomy. Let me be clear. It's so central. Now, when I stepped out of my comfort zone and shared my story, the fact that there was multiple stories in every single room that I went into drives me crazy. That drove me nuts. That this is so pervasive, that it is so cyclical and ongoing. Our reproductive lives, they're so much a part of whether you choose to have a child or you don't choose to have it, whatever it is that you're choosing. That is so central to being here, being a person. I care so deeply because I know that like our lives were almost taken. And I know that that's happening all over. And I really had a moment where I was like, I've been performing since I was 4 years old. Herbie Hancock said my full name on Sesame Street when I was a little baby girl. God, why do I have all these things? And this thing happens, and I know that it is happening all over, which I didn't know that before. I have to do something to stop it from happening. If we left that hospital in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m, almost like we were fleeing. We were lucky to be able to do that. So why was I able to do that? There are a lot of moms who are not here. There are a lot of babies who are not here. And that is really the heart of it.
Yeah, you are such an example and it's so inspiring. And I think you're an example that we can all do something, right? We can all speak up. We can all tell our stories. We can all advocate for the women and children in our own communities, and we can all do something. Tatyana, you are a one girl revolution, and that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast. But who is a one girl revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you? And I know you have many. It's
Oh,
a
I have
hard question.
many. My grandmother she's passed now, but oh my goodness, that lady was a dynamo. And she did it all with impeccable style. My mother, their kids in my son's classrooms, there's one little girl in particular, they just won awards for what they're doing in the classroom. And I was so impressed by one little girl in particular who, when she got her award, I think it was for participation or for math, the way she shook the teacher's hands, so confident and she's like 3 feet tall. So confident and with such authority. Um, that is actually, when you mentioned that question before, she actually came to mind. But
I
that's
love
not
it.
what you're looking for.
No, I love it. I actually was just talking to somebody earlier about how we can learn. We always hear about like, oh, who is somebody that inspires you? And a lot of times it's like a historical figure or it's, a grandparent or a parent, who's come before us. But I have started looking at like we can learn so much from children and even thinking about that little girl, like the confidence that she had to march up there and shake the teacher's hand. I
Yes, and
could
it was a
only
long
hope
shake
that
too. It was a long shake. It wasn't like
may we all have that confidence every single day. So I love it. That is such a great one. Tatyana, you are such a gift and you are such a light in this world. And I'm so grateful to be connected with you. I'm so honored to have you on this podcast. But before I let you go, I always end this podcast on one question. So I'd like to ask you, if you
Mhm.
could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
Be confident enough to be yourself. To be yourself. You are the gift. You are your greatest. We talked about creativity. You are your greatest creative project. You really can, if you set your mind and your heart to it, be anything that you can, that you want, that you dream of. But confidence, and I know that's a word people throw around a lot. I think I've learned that it means like being courageous enough to be yourself and to stand on it. Like, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I like to wear. This is what I'm interested in. That is your greatest journey. And as a woman who's like in her 40s now, I will tell you that that's some stuff that sometimes you still work on. So like that's the big project, to be yourself, because that's why you're here. The world, your community, it needs you to show up exactly as you are at all the stages. So that is my biggest advice. Like, be yourself, be your beautiful, gorgeous, brilliant, sad sometimes, happy other times, tired, excited. Be yourself.
Girl, you're such an example of that. And I'm just so grateful to have had you on the podcast. Thank you so much, Tatyana, for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast. Thank you for your life, for your example, and for all the incredible work that you do.
Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you for this conversation.
For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to all of our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, follow us on social media, donate to our nonprofit organization, and more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.